Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, chapter 16. This is exercise E of chapter 16, parsing English to Latin. Sententia prima. Tomorrow the city will be captured. Soon we shall break camp. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Adverb, this is describing when, goes with the verb. Adverb tomorrow is cras. Don't procrastinate. Don't put it off for tomorrow. The city will be captured. The verb is will be captured. What will be captured? This passive voice verb. The city is the subject. Subject, nominative case, singular city. The Latin word is urbs, urbis, feminine. The city will be captured. So to capture is occupo, occupare, occupavi, occupatus. We want the third person singular, the city, it, will be captured. Future passive, will be captured. Not the city will capture, will do the active voice capturing, but the city will be captured. And indicative mood. Then we have a semicolon. Soon. Now soon could be, it's an adverb, but it could be yam or it could be mox. Could also, if you're really good, write brevi tempore within a brevi, short or brief, tempore, time. So soon mox or soon yam. Yam means now in any tense, past, present, or future. So now in the future, it's like soon. We shall break camp. To break camp is an idiom. You kind of do literally break it, but it's a little idiomatic. In Latin, it is casra movere, where casra, from casra orum, always neuter, always plural, that is going to be the direct object and always going to be the direct object of the verb movere. And then you conjugate movere. So who shall break camp? This is an active voice verb. We, the subject, shall actually do the the action. And that is moveo, movere, movi, motus. To move camp is to break it. First person plural. We shall actively do the action. Future tense, active voice, indicative mood. Altogether, something like urbs occupabitur cras, jam casra movebimus. Will be captured. Future passive. Present stem occupa, chop the re off the second principal part, and then you add the bi and then the tur, the third person singular future passive, bitur. Optime, sententia secunda. The death of the general is being reported far and wide. So the verb is being reported. What is being reported? The death. So the death is the subject of this passive voice verb, because the death is not doing the reporting, the death is passively being reported. So death, the subject, will be in the nominative case. That is the Latin mors, mortis, feminine. And it will be singular death, so mors. The death of the general, the death belonging to the general. So general, imperator, imperatoris, masculine. Because it's possession, the general is possessing the death. It's the general's death. We could write general apostrophe s, death. We want the genitive case. Genitive shows possession. So the genitive singular of imperator, imperatoris, masculine, is imperatoris. Mors imperatoris, or we could write imperatoris mors, the general's death. Is being reported. It is happening right now. To report is nuntio, nuntiare, nuntiavi, nuntiatus. So we want the present tense because it's happening right now. We want the passive voice. What is being reported? The death. It is a thing, third person singular. It is being reported. Present passive indicative, nuntia, nuntiare. So we want the present stem nuntia. You take the re off the second principal part, nuntiare, to get nuntia. And then we want the third singular present passive ending, tur, nuntiator. So something like mors imperatoris nuntiator or imperatoris mors nuntiator. Far and wide. Far and wide. We have these two adverbs joined by the conjunction and. Far is going to be long, longasaon, but as an adverb. So longe, you take the stem long and add an e, longe. Et, or we could add que to wide. Wide is latus aon. To make that into an adverb, you take the stem lat and then add the letter e, late. So we could say longe lateque, longe et late, longe ac late. So adverbs typically hug their verbs pretty close. So imperatoris mors, late longeque nuntiator. That would be a fine Latin sentence. Ottime, tertia, sententia tertia. Won't the enemy have been defeated in Germany? I don't know. So, first off, won't the enemy? We have an interrogative. Won't is a contraction of will not. So, will not the enemy have been defeated? So, the verb is actually will have been defeated. The enemy will have been defeated. Will not the enemy have been defeated? So, this is a question where we expect a yes answer. Won't the enemy have been defeated? Won't they? Yeah, they will. Okay, good. So the first word needs to be nonne. Nonne. The interrogative particle nonne that tells us that this interrogative requires a yes answer. So something in the affirmative. Now the verb is will have been defeated. That's a future perfect, and it's passive. Who or what will have been defeated in Germany? The enemy. So the enemy is the subject of this passive voice verb. The enemy is not doing the defeating. The enemy will have been defeated. It will happen to them. So hostis, hostis, masculine. It's a third declension I stem. So hostes, the enemy is plural. An enemy with the indefinite article will be the singular. So we want the plural, the enemy. Hostes, nominative plural masculine. Nonne hostes. Will they have been defeated? They will have been defeated. So third person plural, because the subject is they. It's future perfect, it's passive, and it's indicative of supero, superare, superavi, superatus. So those perfect, pluperfect, future perfect passives come from the fourth principal part, so superatus. Treat it like an adjective, because it kind of is. Make it agree with the thing that was defeated, the enemy. So if the enemy is nominative plural masculine, superatus must be nominative plural masculine. Superati, with the letter I at the end, because that's nominative plural masculine of an us adjective. Now you need to give it a helping verb. The future of the verb to be, sum esse fui futurus, is used in conjunction with the fourth principal part to form the future passive indicative. So ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt, erunt, E-R-U-N-T, superati erunt. And remember, you can switch those around. You can say erunt superati. Nonne erunt superati, hostes, in plus the accusative would show motion, into or onto, but in plus the ablative shows location, in or on. We are located in. The enemy is in Germania, I feminine. So we want the ablative Germania, macron over the final A, in Germania. Altogether, nonne erunt superati hostes in Germania. That is an excellent Latin sentence. Well done. Quarta, sententia quarta. The fields of the good farmer have been seized. Oh, have they now? Yes, indeed they have. So, the verb is have been seized. What's been seized? The good farmer, right? No, that's silly. The fields belonging to the good farmer. So the fields are the subject. They're the things that have been seized. They belong to the good farmer, of the good farmer. So genitive case, showing possession, where good is an adjective modifying farmer. Remember that the passive voice verb here, have been seized, it's going to be perfect tense and must agree with the thing that was seized, the fields. So ager, agri, masculine, fields, farmlands. We want the subject, so nominative case, and plural. Ager, agri is a second declension masculine. Ager, agri, agro, agrum, agro, agri, agrorum, agris, agros, agris. So agri, the fields, of the good farmer, genitive case. So bonus to have the same gender numbering case as farmer, agricolae masculine. We want the genitive case, showing possession. So genitive singular masculine, we want agricolae. That means we want the genitive singular masculine of bonus So it's going to be boni. Remember, agricola is masculine. So agricolae boni agri. Actually, we should keep that adjective boni away from agri because they look very much like they could be the same gender number in case, and boni could be modifying agri. So it would be the good fields of the farmer. So keep boni away from agri. Make sure boni sticks with agricolae so that the listener / reader knows that this adjective should modify this noun, farmer. So I would actually put the verb in between them, or something like that. Now let's see how it works out. Have been seized. What has been seized? The fields. So we want third person plural. They have been seized, the fields. Perfect passive, because it has happened. It has been done. Perfect passive. So perfect passive uses the fourth principal part of the verb, occupo, occupare, occupavi, occupatus. So we want occupatus to agree us with ager agri. So agri. That will be occupati. And then third person plural perfect passive uses the the perfect passive uses the present tense of sum esse fui futurus. So sum esse est, sumus estis sunt. Occupati sunt. Agri occupati sunt. Agricolae boni. Something like that. Quinta, sententia quinta. The small boy was being kept away from the great danger. How noble. So the verb was being kept away from. How about was being kept away? What was being kept away? The small boy. That's our subject. Was being kept away from the great danger. So the small boy, we have parvus an adjective modifying boy, puer, pueri, masculine. Both must be the subject, so nominative, singular, and masculine. Puer parvus. He was being kept away. To keep away is prohibeo, prohibere, prohibui, prohibitus. To keep off of, prohibeo, hold out in front, prohabeo, to prevent. Usually takes, when it's in the active voice, an accusative and then an ablative of separation. So you keep an accusative direct object away from an ablative of separation. But this verb is in the passive voice, so you will not have an accusative direct object. The small boy was being kept away, and then you'll just have the ablative of separation. Here's the preposition, away from. So from ab, preposition that takes the ablative separation from the great danger. Great is magnus to modify danger, periculum e neuter. So ablative, singular, neuter for both. Periculo magno. Puer parvus a periculo magno was being kept away from. Prohibeo, prohibere, prohibui, prohibitus. Third person singular because he was being kept away from the danger. It's going to be imperfect and passive. Was being kept away implies a process. It was a continuous action in the past. So imperfect, passive, indicative. So present stem, prohibe, second principal part, chop off re, prohibe. Then you add the ba for the imperfect, and then the tur for the third person singular. Prohibebatur. Puer parvus a periculum magno prohibebatur. Optime. Sexta, sententia sexta. The brave soldier had been wounded with a heavy weapon. How sad for him. So, had been wounded is the verb phrase. Who or what had been wounded? The brave soldier. Brave being an adjective modifying soldier. So, brave. Fortis, forte, where fortis is the masculine feminine form and forte is the neuter form. So it is a third declension adjective to termination, because it has one form for the masculine feminine and then another second form for the neuter. To termination. Because soldier, miles militis, masculine, is masculine, we're going to want fortis, the masculine / feminine form, the masculine. So miles militis, masculine, soldier, is the subject, as we said. So nominative case, and there's only one. Nominative, singular, masculine, miles, and then brave, fortis, forte, fortis. Miles fortis, the brave soldier. Had been wounded. Oh no. So he had been wounded, third person singular. Pluperfect, helping verb is had, and then passive. Indicative of vulnero, vulnerare, vulneravi, vulneratus. So the perfect, pluperfect, future perfect, passive use the fourth principal part, vulneratus. Make sure it agrees with whatever was wounded, so the soldier. If he's nominative singular masculine, vulneratus must be nominative singular masculine. So vulneratus, it already is. And then we want the helping verb imperfect of sum. Eram, eras, erat, there it is, eramus, eratis, erat. So vulnerati erat, or erant vulnerati. I'm sorry, erat. Miles fortis erat vulneratus. Miles fortis vulneratus erat. The third person singular, vulneratus erat. With a heavy weapon. So have been wounded with a heavy weapon. By means of a heavy weapon. So heavy weapon is not a person. This is not an ablative of personal agent. This is a thing. By means of this thing. So a weapon, which is heavy, the adjective heavy, gravis, grave, like fortis, forte. Gravis is a third declension to termination adjective because gravis is the masculine feminine form and grave is the neuter form. We want the neuter form here, grave, because weapon, tellum, neuter is neuter. We want the ablative because it's ablative of means, by means of a heavy weapon. If it were a person who did the passive voice verb, the personal agent, we would use the preposition ab and then the ablative. But because heavy weapon is not a person, we won't use the personal agent. Heavy weapon is a thing. Use ablative of means, instrumentality. A weapon is an instrument. So tellum neuter, the ablative is tello. And then heavy, gravis, we want the ablative. Remember, all third declension adjectives have I stem endings, so gravi. Brave soldier. Miles fortes tello gravi vulneratus erat. Dun dun dun. Septima, sententia septima. Everything was carried into the camp. Oh my, was it really? Yes, indeed. So remember, when you see everything, it translates into all things, all the things. So omnis omne, third declension adjective, to termination. You want the neuter because it's all things. So omne is neuter singular. So you want the plural, all the things, neuter plural. Omne, omnis, omni, omne, omni, omnia. Remember, third declension adjectives have I stem endings. So omnia, everything, all the things. Omnia was carried into the camp. So was carried. It happened in the past. It was, snap of the fingers, done. That's perfect passive. Third person plural, because it's all the things, were carried. Third person plural, perfect passive, indicative of porta, portare, portavi, portatus. So the perfect, pluperfect, future perfect passive uses the fourth principal part, so portatus. Make it agree with what was carried. So all the things. Portatus aon becomes the nominative plural neuter portata. And then the perfect passive uses the present tense of sum esse fui futurus. So sum es est, sumus estis, third plural, sunt. Portata sunt, or sunt portata. Sunt omnia portata, if you're feeling really fancy. Into the camp. Into the camp. In plus the accusative shows motion towards into or onto. Hey, that's what we have. We're going into the camp. Motion, movement, into. So camp is castra, orum, always neuter, always plural. Into the camp, accusative, plural, in castra. Remember that castra has 5 forms. The nominative is castra. The genitive is castrorum, then castris, then castra, then castris, because it's always neuter, always plural. Optime, octava, sententia octava. The horses in the field were frightened by the boys' voices. Of course they were. So the horses, they were the things that were frightened. So horses, equus e masculine. Subject, so nominative case, and there's more than one, so plural. The nominative plural masculine, equi. They are in the field. In plus the accusative would show motion towards, into, or onto, but in plus the ablative shows location, in or on. And that's what we have here. We are located in the field. You could choose. It's either an ager agri masculine, a field like a farmland, like the crops, or the horses could be in just a wide open plain, like a campus e masculine. I don't know about you, but I'm choosing campus. So we are in the campus e masculine. Ablative would be campo, in campo. Campus, campi, campo, campum, campo. Campi, camporum, campis, campos, campis. We want in campo. Equi in campo. They were frightened. So to frighten. To frighten is terreo, terrere, terrui, territus. They were frightened. Third person plural, they. Perfect passive. And it's going to be indicative. Now perfect passive, fourth principal part of terreo, terrere, terrui, territus. Make territus agree with the things that were frightened, the horses. So territi. And then the perfect passive needs the present tense of sum esse fui futurus to make it work. So sum es est, sumus estis, third plural, sunt. Equi in campo, territi sunt. Equi in campo sunt territi. By the boys' voices. By the boys' voices. By means of the boys? So personal agent? No, it's by means of the voices of the boys. So boys will be genitive plural, you can tell by the apostrophe after the S. More than one boy. Puer, pueri, masculine. We want the genitive plural, puerorum. By the voices. Voices are things, not people. So we want the ablative of means, which is prepositionless. No preposition by here, because we're going ablative of means with the things, the voices. Vox, vocus, feminine. Ablative plural feminine. Vocibus, puerorum. Equi in campo, vocibus puerorum sunt teriti. Equi in campo, vocibus puerorum teriti sunt. Nona, sententia nona. The general had been warned about the fire on the mountain. Had been warned is the verb. Who had been warned? The general, so he's the subject. Imperator, imperatoris masculine, nominative singular subject. Imperator, he had been warned. To warn is moneo, monere, monui, monitus, and he had been warned, so third person singular. Had been is pluperfect and passive, and it's indicative. The general had been warned. So we want, it's a pluperfect, so the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect passive use the fourth principal part. Monitosaon, make it agree with the guy who had been warned, the imperator, the general. He's already nominative singular masculine, so monitos. Had been, so pluperfect passive uses the imperfect of sum esse fui futurus. So eram, eras, erat, there you go. Eramus, eratus, erant. So erat. Erat monitus. Monitus erat. Imperator monitus erat. He had been warned about what? About day, preposition day plus the ablative, the fire. We want the ablative of ignis, ignis masculine, a third declension I stem. Because it's a masculine I stem, igne, with the letter E, igne. De igne. Where's the fire? Well, it's on the mountain. In plus the accusative would show motion towards, into, or onto, but in plus the ablative shows location, in or on. So on the mountain. In plus the ablative of mons, montis, masculine. A third declension masculine I stem. Because it's masculine, its ablative will be the letter E, in monte. In plus the ablative monte. De igne in monte. Imperator monitus erat. A fine Latin sentence. And decima, sententia decima. The king's sisters were carried by a wagon to the ship. The king's sisters, they were carried. So what was carried? The king, right? No, the king has the apostrophe S. He's possessing the sisters, and it's the sisters who were carried. So sisters is the subject. King will be the genitive of possession. Rex, regis, masculine, singular, possession. Possessing the sisters, subject. So the nominative of soror, sororis, feminine. And plural because there's more than one sister. So regis, sorores, because soror, sororis, feminine is a third declension feminine, not an I stem. So sorores. The regis sorores were carried. They were carried. They were carried. Third person plural. Perfect passive indicative of porto, portare, portavi, portatus. Who was carried? The sisters were carried. So perfect passive, make the fourth principal part agree with the sisters. If they are nominative plural feminine, we want a nominative plural feminine ending for portatus aum. So portatai, portatai, nominative plural feminine, with an AE pronounced I. Portatai, and then the present tense of sum esse fui futurus as a helping verb. Sum es est, Sumus estis, sunt. Portatai sunt, or sunt portatai. Regis sorores portatai sunt, or regis sorores sunt portatai. By a wagon to the ship. Now they were carried by a wagon. They were carried by means of a wagon. So the wagon was their conveyance. A wagon is a carros, masculine, cart, car, carried by means of this thing. So the ablative of means, because it's a thing, it's an instrument, their conveyance. We want the ablative singular, no preposition. The ablative of means is prepositionless, where the ablative of personal agent uses the preposition a. This is not personal agent, because a wagon, last time I checked, is not a person. Sorry, no offense to all you wagons out there. So, a wagon, carros masculine, a carro, carro. They were carried, sunt portatai, carro, to the ship, motion towards, to the ship. Ad plus the accusative motion towards. We want the accusative singular of navis, navis feminine, a third declension feminine I stem. It doesn't affect its accusative, which is nawem, ad nawem. Ad nawem portatai sunt regis sorores caro. Ad nawem caro sunt portatai regis sorores. Or regis sorores caro ad nawem portatai sunt. Something like that. Optime, very well done. That concludes exercise E of chapter 16, and you are now ready to move on to the Lectio Latina of chapter 16. Volete omnes.